Welcome to the Jali podcast. I'm your host, Melyssa Barrett. This podcast is for those who are interested in the conversation around diversity, inclusion, and equity. Each week, I'll be interviewing a guest who has something special to share or is actively part of building solutions in this space. Let's get started. This week, I had the pleasure to interview some friends that have been practicing Kwanzaa for 22 years. They were the original friends that came to our house for our very first Kwanzaa, and since then have been practicing Kwanzaa ever since. Many of you may have seen over the last week or so that I released a variety of videos regarding Kwanzaa, as well as the live Kwanzaa event that took place on January 1st of 2022. And I just wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity to see what Kwanzaa is like. I don't think anybody's Kwanzaa is the same. It's a creative process. People do lots of different things when they are celebrating Kwanzaa, but I at least wanted to show you an example of mine. So this week, I figured I would interview some of the folks that I had with me. They are my very good friends, and they have stood the test of time. But I am pleased to say we have a good time. They still participate. You'll note Chris Brinkley did the reverence for the creator and creation at this last Kwanzaa event. And James Daly actually did the final prayer. So if you're looking to see Chris Brinkley and James Daly, they were there at this last one. So let me just introduce you to the folks that I have in the room. Chris Brinkley, who is a systems administrator. James Daly, who works in transportation. Patricia Daily works with a consulting firm. Cynthia Mundy, who is in payment technology. Peter McConico, or Ronald McConico, I should say. We call him Peter. He is a retired law enforcement professional. And of course, myself. So you will just hear us talking about the first Kwanzaa we had. And I just figured I'd let you guys in on some of the conversation as we reminisced not only about the first Kwanzaa as we started it, because I think, a lot of times we're looking for ways to get started. So you'll hear a little bit about how we got started. And then, we just spent some time talking about the experiences, and you will also hear them bringing up Peter Barrett, who was my husband, who really kind of initiated a lot of the discussions on creating Kwanzaa. So anyway, I figured I would give you guys front row seat to just kind of hear about Kwanzaa, how we started, and some of the things that go through people's minds as you start new things. So here's to a phenomenal year, and I am hoping that you will spend it again on Kwanzaa every day. Kwanzaa is all about reflection and recommitment. And obviously, the principles associated with Kwanzaa include unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. Join me in listening to this conversation. All right. So this is the crew from the first Kwanzaa we ever have, and some of my closest friends for sure. I just figured it'd be great to just talk a little bit about this new experience. Some people know what Kwanzaa is, some people don't. And since we're going into another Kwanzaa season, I figured I would just ask you all what the experience has been like. And, what you felt about it when I'm sure my husband, Peter, called you and said something about coming to Kwanzaa.
Okay. Well, let me share something with you guys. I don't know if I even share this with my wife, but when I start to remember the first time he called and talked about that, I didn't want to go because he used to always talk about, he was in that season that he talked about so much of his family history, the genealogy. He was building all this stuff up. And I just figured there was going to be kind of the same thing. You know, he was going to actually talk to us about his family tree and everything. But I remember though that just coming together that first time, and where our children were small, and then when he got going, I found myself very tuned in to what he was, presenting at that time, and even at that first time, I started to learn more about some things that I didn't have no idea or didn't have much knowledge of, before. And from that point on, it's for me, it got more and more interesting because I seen the passion that he had to want to keep something going and keep us all in tune, to inspire us to first of all look in our background, look in our history, and somehow connect all that together. That's what I found pretty interesting as I was starting to remember some things back almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's about 22 years ago now. Yeah. Awesome. Anybody else?
I was always open-minded about Kwanzaa. I remember Pete was advocating to have something at his house. And, I was curious. We heard about this, African-American, I'll say a holiday, because it was not just one day, but a series of days. And Pete was such a wealth of information. He's really a historian in disguise. And he was, I think before we even started Kwanzaa, I was asking him questions about, the principles and the libation. I think he had an element for the kids in there. The children would have books or something like that. And, and it was just a very fascinating thing in just having these conversations with Pete, because he was the Jali before he was the Jali, and so, because he kind of evolved over time, there came the Jali, right? So, but yeah, it was very informative, and wasn't sure if there was going to be like a religious element in there, and so it was very curious about a Kwanzaa just in general. And so I think, we've been doing it, all these years, and trying to reminisce on the first one is heartwarming.
That's awesome. Who's next?
Well, we started with our family, so I knew what it was about, but it was more so Pete's passion for me. So when he asked, of course, I mean, I've spent nights up with Pete, sitting on that couch and going to sleep in the room, near the door. So we've talked a lot about it. I was always interested in it. And it was a pleasure. And it was really nice for him to include me in it, to be a part of it. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it every time I came down there. I got to meet new people. And of course, speaking with Pete, walking around, speaking with him throughout the day, just the history that he would give. And as James was saying, he would speak about, his history, his family tree. But even when he talked about that, it was informative for me. It made me want to know more about my past and where I was from, and, how I evolved to where our family is now. So very interesting.
Awesome. I know Pat is around somewhere.
Well, for me, it was exciting because I had heard about Kwanzaa from Cynthia, but I had never been to a Kwanzaa event and didn't really know what would take place at that event. So I did a little research. I remember doing a little research about Kwanzaa just to get a better understanding of what Kwanzaa was about and the principles. And when we actually, came to your house and we had the first one, it was exciting because we were a part of something new. For most of us, it was something new. and something that I had never experienced before. And also just listening to the stories. He was one of the best storytellers, and it captured your attention. It's like, okay, is it over already? You would think, there has to be something more to this story, but he was just an excellent storyteller, and it captured your attention, and it left you wanting for more, wanting to learn about more, and it was good just to see it evolve. I forget how many of us was at the first one. Was it 10 of us?
This is it. This is it. All of you and your kids.
And
that was it.
Right. That was it. And I can't remember if we went out and bought the kids little outfits, for the occasion, the kente patterns and outfits. But yeah, it was a humbling experience, because it also made me want to learn more about, our history. Mm-hmm. And he had a great way of telling, like I said, telling stories, but making you feel like, okay, you know what? We're royalty. We are a very, educated and people. We come from greatness.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I really appreciate about his history lessons. Because he always had a history lesson, even when you didn't want to hear it, he was telling you about your history, somebody's history.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. But it was very, educational. And I really appreciate, when you look back on it, you really appreciate what he was instilling and pouring into us.
Yes, indeed. And I know Cynthia was the one who really had brought us to her Aunt Evelyn's Kwanzaa the year before, which was an experience for us because we were trying to figure out, how to celebrate. Like, what was this supposed to look like? And I think for Peter and I, it was so inspiring to see what she had created in her home. And, not that we were trying to replicate it per se, but it was a real encouragement to us for her to not only create it, but give us kind of a guidebook in terms of, how to do it. And, Cynthia was like, hey, you know what? Let's just do it. So I just always appreciated Cynthia, just reaching out and saying, well, if you guys want to know how to do it, come to this one. So I don't know, Cynthia, if you have kind of a view of a couple of them, having gone to your aunt's as well and seeing her legacy.
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
I'm not a big crowd person, although, going to church, you would think I would be used to crowds, but I'm really not.
And a singer and no.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I started going. I don't know if it was her very first one or not. I don't recall, but she did ask me to sing. And I think Denzel I don't even know if he was one. He may have been one because someone made him a little kente outfit. But I had to sing there, and I was like, all these people in this small space, But it was, I found it going there to be educational, just learning about Kwanzaa, the different parts of it, and meeting new people. And it was really a community affair because people that she knew in the community, she was involved in the NAACP and some other committees and stuff, 100 Black women, and all these people would come to her house for this Kwanzaa. And it didn't bother anybody that it was 200 people in this house and you didn't have anywhere to sit or anything. But I tried to look back on the moment and see how it was educational, and it's just teaching me that we need to come together as a community more often, and how if we all came together and actually practiced the principles that we learned through Kwanzaa, we could be a better people together. But I as we moved on and started the ones at your house, I felt a little more comfortable because it was just a few of us and excited, because all our kids participated in doing the principles. And in some kind of way, we all had a part in the program. I'm looking at a couple of them now, and I was like, man, that was so long ago. But I think when it came to Pete, he did have that passion for history. So that just took it to another level. And of course, always educating about knowing where you're from. You should want to know where you're from. So, and then of course it grew bigger. I was like, oh, it's a lot of people here.
Yes.
But always something, new, just even the activities that went on during, the Kwanzaa, the storytelling, the poetry, the drummers, the dancing. Those were things. Some of those things were not at my aunt's, but it's like it just took what she had and kind of grew, from there. So I'm happy to see that what she started continued on with you guys in your home. So it's just good times when I think about the Kwanzaa celebrations, especially when we started with our small group. And now, all the kids are grown, but they didn't get to participate in all the Kwanzaa, but it was good to get them started. But it's just a good family gathering, community gathering event, and the time for everyone to learn, from one another. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that it's interesting that you say that, because I think for us, Peter and I were kind of, I'll just say, a little sick of the commercialization around Christmas and really wanted to figure out how to pull in, that heritage that I think certainly most people yearn for. And so the ability to kind of connect with the first fruit celebrations and the ingathering of the people, and really to kind of reaffirm and reinforce that family, community, and culture was pretty cool, especially knowing, because I think we were years later trying to figure out if our kids even understood anything about what was being said. And then all of a sudden there was, this, just true acknowledgement about, their own heritage, which was really, kind of amazing to see blossom. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it was like for your kids.
They were there for the food and to play with their friends. I mean, that's honest. They just wanted to play with their friends and eat the food, all the different foods.
Yeah, that feast it's a feast for sure.
It is definitely a feast. Yeah, right. I would say the same as Patricia. They were definitely there for the food and their friends. At that age, I don't think they really understood, maybe later on in life. But I know, for mine, for Denzel, he hadn't participated later, in his teenage years or anything, but he's certainly aware, of Kwanzaa from going. But yeah, food and friends, the gathering.
Mm-hmm. So coming back now, did you have something you wanted to say, James?
Well, I was just thinking when they said that food and friends, that was probably some of us too as adults, because I think one thing that happens that you realize, that I was starting to realize going there every year, year after year, it's not just meeting the people, but also you start hearing about, when you're in conversation, their stories a little bit, about how some people open up about their lives and what it meant to, to them, because, the food's a big part of it, but I remember just talking to him sometimes that when he started preparing his gumbo, and stuff, he makes 2 different pots, gumbo and stuff. And he did not want just, he tried to make sure that everybody had some kind of understanding before just jump into the food and everything. And I think, though, that for me, each year that, that I went there, I took away something to challenge myself with, to be better in, because Pete would always, I tell you one thing about, Pete, he would you know, he remembers everything. I mean, that's the only cat I know he can remember things when he was 5 years old. I don't know how but he would be able to share something and challenge you with, if you talk about something that you want to do it, and he'll put it on you to try and encourage you to keep on, hey, his commitment to this was amazing. I think Chris mentioned something about the little bit of connection between that and the religious, as far as, our spiritual lives. But some of those things are good principles to have in our own spiritual life, the commitment that it takes, the longevity, stuff that at times we can take for granted. But he was real good at that, and getting just by his life, his lifestyle and stuff. So I was just thinking, I said, yes, more than fun. What else I got from that besides good food?
Yeah, he did exemplify that, though. All of those things that we did there, he didn't just, we didn't just go there to talk about them. He exemplified them in his life. So I agree with that, James. He did challenge a lot, and he would remember and ask you later if you did it, or call you, have you done it? So I agree with that 100. And the thing was, to me, is that he exemplified those qualities in his life,
Hey, first of all, Melyssa, I just want to say thank you for at least putting this together, because, when we talk about legacy, this really was Peter's passion project. And, this was something that the kids have, would not have had an opportunity to see something that was unapologetically Black and then also Afrocentric at the same time. And so, we see the influence of hip hop, but, this it's always been family friendly. And, it's always nice to see everybody come out in their African garb and to share this tradition over the years. Cynthia was talking about Denzel being young, but, we look at how our kids have grown and have been introduced to something that potentially they can share with their kids if they so choose, right? And so, but that's really, Pete's hand in, kind of introducing Kwanzaa to this group. I know Cynthia and Peter had previously had experience with it. For many of us, it was just a new thing. And it was nice to see, have, jambalaya and other cultural foods that was unique to the Black community. And, and Cynthia mentioned the drums. Pete was not only, a very eloquent individual and, exceptionally bright, but the man was, rich in talent. He was a musician. And Kwanzaa was borderline entertainment. When you put the drums and the storytelling together, that was really his formula. Is we told the stories with the drums. And I'm not too sure how old Paul was at the time, but we see Paul with years, and maybe he's keeping that going with his family, and then in the later years we see Kwanzaa in the box and just all this innovation happening, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it's been a journey, that's for sure. And he always wanted to keep it inside the house, because I used to say, it's like 150, 200 people in the house. Maybe we should go to a community center. And he was like, absolutely not. It's a different feel when it's in a community center than when it's in your house. So, yeah.
That's true, though. I think that's true. I understand the crowd and all of that, but it's true. It is a different feel. I just love the way he had the seniors would sit down. They would sit at the table.
Yeah.
Out of respect, honor to them, for us, standing for where we are now, standing on their shoulders. I really appreciated it. I enjoyed all of that.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important components is, he always made sure that we asked the elders for permission to start.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, I think a lot of people just kind of skip over that part. But to me, it's that one time where it is full respect that this program will not go on without the elders' permission. And then obviously if they're sitting at the, the elders table, or, they, in some cases we serve the elders, the kids serve the elders, and we try to make sure that we are thinking about all of them as we're doing it.
Right.
But I mean, even some of the elements in terms of like, Chris, I know you've done the libation a few times now. I remember one time and, you have that symbolic sip, and I think you sent the cup around and it took like an hour for it to come back. I was like, maybe next time we'll do a symbolic sip.
Right.
But it's kind of funny because the different elements, you're right in terms of the entertainment. I think the entertainment gives you a reason for people to come and learn, right? Because people they don't just want a history lesson. They want, make it interesting, right? And I think there's so many times where we don't know our own history and other people don't know our history either. So it gives us an opportunity. And I always love that Pete would invite everybody, no matter where they came from or who they were or whatever. Everybody is invited to come and join us for the celebration.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of cool. So, and one of the things that we were always trying to figure out is, how to get more people to celebrate. Any suggestions y'all have?
You mean in your home or just in general?
Just in general.
You can
always come to my
house if you want us to.
You can always come to my house.
Yeah, your house is where the tradition is. I mean, yeah. They're starting it up in other areas. I didn't thought much about it because, we're at your place. So, and it grew into a production after a while.
It is a production.
And I think just taking it from my aunts to your house, like I said, it's grown. I think probably, and I know you have Kwanzaa in a box, it's almost like you have to teach people how to have the Kwanzaa event at their home, either like the whole thing that we do from the whole program, or even if it's just to celebrate the day, for a principal. But I think people need to probably be educated on the process, and that you don't have to have everything, but, just enough to make it sure people get the message, about what Kwanzaa is about. So I don't know. And people need to be interested and have the desire to want to learn more, because without that it's probably not going to be very interesting to them if they don't have like this desire to learn more about their history or what Kwanzaa is really about.
I always tell people when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion that curiosity is kind of number one. If you're not curious, you're not going to learn about any other culture or
right. Right. Yeah. So I think that's my 2 cents, is probably having to not like just the Kwanzaa in a box, but maybe taking a box and maybe a little video to go along with it. I don't know, for them to understand all of the things that go into the day.
Yeah. And I think, and what's interesting to me is, we always went into Kwanzaa principles every day.
Right.
So if you're talking about unity or self-determination or purpose or creativity, cooperative economics, there's stuff you can do every day. So, to me, if we have those principles in front of us, the one time of year that we may come together, hopefully it's not the only time of year, but it does give you this opportunity to see people that you haven't seen in a long time, commune with them, fellowship with them, and then kind of recommit to whatever those, what the principles are. Right. And I think that's the intention, is that, this was created in 1966 amidst the civil rights movement. So to me, I cannot imagine. I just know my own rage when I see, discrimination, people being sprayed with hoses and literally being, like having someone sit on your neck. I mean, those types of things
being hung,
are enraging.
Being hung.
Say it again.
Being lynched.
Yeah. And so to me, what the principles do is kind of allow me to exhale and try to collect myself in a way that allows me to continue to strive for excellence because I came from excellence. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, it does. And those principles, when you were speaking about how can we continue it on, for me, it's like we got to live it, and it just doesn't stop our begin on when we start Kwanzaa after Christmas. It doesn't just start then. It's a lifestyle. Yeah. It's a lifestyle.
Well, and Pete would always talk about being a keeper of the culture. And, especially amidst a pandemic like this, when we can't necessarily get together as frequently, it becomes more important to really connect with each other and tell those stories and talk about, what we're experiencing. Let's pause for a moment. We'll be right back. So aside from the food that you all seem to have enjoyed, are there principles that you all identify with, maybe more than others?
Not necessarily a principle. I remember we always have this section where we remember the ashes. Somewhere in there we're doing ashes, and it's always good to remember
where we're calling out the names of people that have gone on,
and trailblazers and those who have passed away, and the mothers and the fathers. We call Pete's name out, and Ashe, and these we cannot forget really the roots of who we are as a people. And because I knew it was a young holiday, but when you said 1966, it's just wow, there was a lot of activity going on in this country at that time. And somewhere in there, I forget the guy's name who founded Kwanzaa.
Malana Karenga.
Yeah, to have this idea that we really need to have a day or a week or something that we could call our own, because we really didn't have that. A lot of our culture was, stripped from us, our ancestors, and really trying to develop something that would be more long lasting and kind of what transcend time and it's got wheels, no doubt about it from then. And
I want to piggyback something what Chris just said as far as that, calling out the names, of individuals. I tell you, it's very humbling, because some names that sometimes people call out names that you forgot about, and then you look at the person sometimes that call out the name. Man, maybe I need to, I kind of forgot. Maybe just go over and say hello sometimes and spend some time. But it was just a reminder of people, because we're so much. And I found that part of when they were doing that part was very, just remembering some things and some people that have touched your life. That because we move on sometimes too quickly, and not realize, man, this person's important. It was important. I haven't visited this person or talked to them. I know it's just a feeling inside that sometimes you just remember. If I wasn't there to hear some of these names, I didn't even remember these people and things. And I thought that was a very important part as well. And I love when one of the principles was about the unity. I love that. I've always liked, that, only because I think of that's just the key. So that we have to be, as a culture, and be more unified together, from families, from just things that I think is important, that when we have opportunity, don't waste that time because you don't get that time back.
Yeah, there's an African proverb that says, and I'll remember it, but it's something like, as long as someone calls your name, you exist.
Yeah. Mm.
Which to me, I'm not sure I even quite got that until after Peter passed away. And it's always now, it's felt like, for so long, there was this gift that was being given to me.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure people don't forget who he was and, the impacts that he had on people.
Yeah.
But I believe that's even scriptural from our Christian background. It's infused in there because we still talk about Abraham. We still talk about Rahab, because they're significant. They did something that made them significant. And Pete did that. For me, he did. He set a lot of examples, did a lot of things that his name should be continually mentioned, because the things that he did through Kwanzaa, it's just beautiful. I mean, he brought people together. I've met people that I didn't even know, but each time I saw them on Kwanzaa, we spoke, we talked, and had great conversations. So he brought people together. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. So I believe his name will continue to go on. With all of those that came through on these Kwanzaas this time, his name will always continue. I believe that.
I think Melyssa, we were talking the other day about just how cool Pete was. Pete, Pete, and certainly there was a huge void, the Kwanzaa after, I think, with him, being gone, it was, kind of, it felt different. But, that guy had some swagger about him. I mean, yeah, those,
yeah,
and so and the grandkids, they didn't get a chance to really meet, Pete and see just how cool of a guy he was, and we're meeting today, still feeling his impact and his influence, and so I digress from the principal question. That's me rattling off here. I'll let somebody else talk.
The floor is open, y'all.
Well, I was looking at the principles, the 7 principles, and I was thinking about today, the pandemic, what's going on in society right now. And I think that this is like the perfect time for those principles to be implemented because, as a culture, just the world, we really need to be able to come together right now. And we need that self-determination and to come together and collectively work and be responsible. All of that needs to happen right now. And it's just so interesting just to see how, things just evolve. But like the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. So this, Kwanzaa was started, you said 1966. During that time and all the, the civil, unrest that was going on there, during that time. And now look at us in 2021. It's almost like, I won't say deja vu, but, there's a parallel. And these principles are just, just as important as they were back in 1966.
Yeah, no doubt. Cynthia? Any last words?
No, I pretty much echo what everyone else has said about, the remembering the ancestors, how important that was. And I think other point I wanted to bring out about that part was how I felt like the people who attended really enjoyed that part as well because they got to participate by calling out their and because it would go on and on. And you had to stop it, but I did like that part as well. And like, I think I said it earlier about the principles. It's something, if we could practice it, all of them, and really make it part of, our everyday, that as a people, I think we will be able to come closer and be more supportive of one another in the things that we do. And if, especially like people who are doing entrepreneurial things, we'll be able to support one another in that because we'll be looking at the bigger picture, not just ourselves. Anyway,
yes.
Did Pete have a favorite principle, Melyssa?
He didn't have a favorite principle because his focus was making sure that everybody practiced every principle every day. And so, he would, I think we always enjoyed having a celebration on one day because we got to emphasize a particular principle that year. So, but I think the fact that his cousin, after his last Kwanzaa, put together the cutting board with all the principles on it, it's like, literally I use the cutting board every day. So.
In your face.
Yes, it's in my face. I remember them all the time. So, it becomes kind of a little more rote and you start going, I need to act better. I need to be more self-determined or, whatever. So I love the fact that, you can really look at these principles, and they're great principles for everyone, not just African Americans. But for me, it's just a matter of wanting to keep it going and to highlight the principles and, get people familiar with what Kwanzaa is. Because I think for, when we started, there were so many people that would, in our history, tell us we didn't have a culture. We weren't African, we weren't American. And Kwanzaa at least gave us a celebration and a platform to really, highlight some of our own culture to other people's culture as well as our own people.
Yeah.
So anyway, on that note, I appreciate you guys so much for coming and having this.
Well, let's talk about Pete Swagger.
What about it?
I was just laughing. I said, when I start thinking back on something,
that guy had
I don't know if you guys, I knew Pete for a long time. Pete was a shy dude.
He was a what?
He was a shy dude for a while. He used to hang around. Pete was always quiet, didn't talk. He just appears. You don't know where he comes from.
He just appears.
And he will tell you at things that you forgot. I told you, he got that mind to just remember.
He got that mind.
Like that. One of the things when I just thinking back on some things as we were growing up and even throughout, Pete was, because we all like sports and stuff like that. And he would play, but it seemed like he felt like he was always the odd man out. Getting the basketball, who's the last man picked. but
yes, sports was not his forte.
No, with Pete was the one thing that I do would say he's a good supporter. He will support you on things that you've done, and he shows up. If you got something going on, something like that, he would support you in every way that he knew how, like that. But I laugh at that. I don't know if you still got them all, but all those canes. We used to talk about that. All those canes. I said, man, the one thing I would tell a doctor in a minute, if I hurt my ankle, I don't need a cane. I'm going to get one of the styling ones.
We still have a lot of canes here. Yes.
Oh,
yes,
man.
Indeed.
So much good times, I tell you so much.
Hey, people say Denzel Washington has a walk, but Pete had the coolest walk. He had the coolest walk.
Man, Swagger. Yeah.
He had the coolest walk.
Oh my gosh, y'all are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had a sense of humor, and that he had a very hearty, healthy laugh.
Mhm.
And the man was a maverick. He was a rebel. I mean, that guy can, if he want to debate you, to say no for the sake of saying no. You couldn't make him do anything. If he decided in his mind he wasn't going to do it. Remember he was at Ray Cam. It was asking the food at Ray Cam. So yeah, man. Yeah, he's a character.
Yes, he was a character. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Melyssa, for continuing on his legacy with the community Kwanzaa.
Yes.
The beautiful thing. You are doing a wonderful job with this. I'm sure he is smiling down on you because you have kept this going, and we all want to help you continue it.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. You always come to the table whenever I call. Y'all are always there. So I appreciate it. Even Peter. Now look, even Peter, he shows up.
He shows up. No, he appears.
McConico to the table.
But James said Pete just appeared. So I figured I use one of those. I'll just appear.
Right? First Peter and second Peter.
That's funny.
I saw what you did there.
That's funny because we used to say that to each other.
Uh-huh.
He used to say, "I'm first Peter." Okay, you first Peter. I'm second Peter.
Oh no!
Yeah, and he will let you know he's first Peter.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh, y'all are crazy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melyssa. Love you.
Love you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Love you.
Looking forward to seeing you this year at Kwanzaa.
Yes.
I'll be there.
All
Be
right.
here.
All right.
Be here or be square.
All right.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Take care.
All right, family.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks for joining me on the Jali podcast. Please subscribe so you won't miss an episode. See you next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.